Good morning, everybody. So I've got two talks to do. The first one this morning is really about the lean transformation model that we've been developing. Back in 2014, John Shook shared that on the Lean Enterprise Institute website. There's a really nice little video of the transformation model, and that's really the model that we've been working with partner companies on, trying to really research what makes a transformation successful and what are the key elements. But what I thought I would do is, just before I start that, I thought I would explain a little bit about what we mean by transformation. And I think this picture of the caterpillar turning into a butterfly is quite a good way to explain. Transformation really is about a marked change, and that could be in terms of form, nature, character, or appearance. And in a business context, transformation is about a profound change that orientates the organization in a new direction, and it takes an entirely different level of effectiveness. So let's step back in time. As Sabosh said, I've worked with Dan Jones now for a very long time. I almost had hair when I started working with him. And back in '96, Jim and Dan, on page 270 of Lean Thinking, they suggested an action plan. And that action plan started with finding a change agent. We were told to get some lean knowledge, to seize or create a crisis. And having got those in place, we were told to go and understand our value streams, map them, and then radically change them, kaikaku them, not just kaizen them, and transform them before then expanding our efforts. And Dan and Jim told us to then reorganize by product family, to create a lean function, to devise a policy for extra people, and create a new organization. And in the next few years, we'd be able to install new business systems, such as policy deployment, and during the latter stages of the transformation, we'd be able to apply these steps with our customers and with our suppliers. This isn't a bad list. It's quite a good list. But we've learnt quite a lot in 18 years. And one of the things that we've learned, and probably one of the key things, is that implementing lean is extremely situational. It depends on the issues that the organization is faced with. And so because it's situational, it starts by understanding the problem or the problems you're actually trying to solve. So perhaps it's time to think about lean transformation in the same way that Jim and Dan taught us to think about lean. Transformation is important because it's relevant wherever you are on your lean journey. For some of you, you might just be starting out. You might be on the left-hand side of the picture, and you want to be aware of what the elements are that are required. The way to think about transforming into a lean organization. If you're trying to sustain and improve that transformation, then understanding the performance gaps that you have helps you to develop the plans and the actions to take you to the next level. Whether you're a senior leader or in an improvement team or actually leader of a frontline team and struggling for traction, understanding these elements is equally important. So let's have a think about that. I think one of the things that we quite often forget is that excellent lean companies are trying to compress time. And whether you're making products or you're providing services, then time to market from concept to launch or time from order through to delivery are often critical to success. And to do this, each step in terms of each step of either of those value streams has to be able to produce and deliver right first time on time. So through successive new launches, new product launches, and continuous improvement in less time as well. So the best lean companies employ lean principles, concepts and tools to highlight problems and that prevent them and hinder them from delivering right first time on time. They know whether they're behind or ahead in terms of their performance. And they put countermeasures in place to get back on track. So, here's a challenging question for you. Can we apply time compression to lean transformation? All of you struggle with it. So why can't we do lean transformation right first time on time? And what would that mean for us? So I said it was a challenging question, and it's one that you might not even have ever thought about, really. But I'm sure that many of you, if you haven't thought about that, you have thought about the symptoms of not doing transformation right first time on time. Because quite frequently we hear, my boss doesn't get this. I need my boss to engage more with this. How do I get my boss to do this? How do I, and one of your expectations from last year, how do you motivate people? So you see the symptoms of a lack of right first time in your transformation, but you maybe don't recognize that you can apply the same logic as you can to launching new products or delivering a service. So let's have a think about that, and let's have a think about how we can do that. So problem solving. I think if we wanted to start to understand how we can do transformation right first time on time, we'd need to grasp the situation and understand where we are, and then we'd need to understand where we need to get to. And this is a slide I often use, and it talks about what a problem is. A problem's a gap between the way things are now and the way we want them to be or we expect them to be in the future. And this goes all the way back to the 1940s, training within industry materials. A manager's got a problem when the work assigned fails to produce the expected results. So what we're looking at is a gap between the current situation and the ideal situation. And it's the gaps that we're trying to close. So that's where the lean transformation model comes in. It's a framework for allowing us to think about transformation and what we're actually trying to do. So to explain the transformation model, we've borrowed the house metaphor from Toyota. Sure, you've all got a house, haven't you? Sabosh mentioned Bosch. I'm sure Bosch has got a house. Definitely got some screwdrivers to make a house. And the house comprises foundations, 2 pillars, and a roof. And of course, many of your organizations are aware of Toyota's production system house. Many firms have tried to emulate it, build their own version, often by copying the elements. However, the transformation model is quite different in its intent. Instead of listing the tools and techniques used, or even the principles, things like Jidoka or just in time, what we're doing is we're trying to seek a way to communicate the questions you need to think about when you're embarking on a lean transformation. So what we've learned over the years is that each company's circumstances are actually quite different and quite specific. They're unique. And we need this situational approach to the transformation. However, we've got to remember at the same time that that this is built around lean. It's built around a lean approach, and therefore one of the distinctive features that we need to think about, one of the distinctive features of lean, is that we need to understand the perspective of the customer and what value is from the perspective of the customer. So we've called this value-driven purpose. And what we're actually asking, the first question we're asking is, what problem are we trying to solve? What's the business problem we're trying to solve? Later on today, I'm going to talk quite a bit about three cases that I've been involved in over the last 20 years. And the most recent one is a Toyota dealer group. They also sell some other types of cars which aren't quite as good, things like Fords and GM products and so on. But most of their business is Toyota based. And the company's called Halfway. So I'm quite sure from a translation point of view, you kind of think it's halfway between here and here, but that's actually the name of the company. It's called the Halfway Group. And to illustrate this idea of what the business, thinking through the business problem, we can illustrate this using Halfway's example that we've been working on. And this is Halfway's. It's called Team X. It's the senior management team, the owners and the COO and so on. And this is their strategy, and it breaks down very simply into their purpose, consisting of elements related to customer value and also relating to key goals. And this is really the starting point of any transformation, is understanding the business problem that we're actually trying to solve. In this case, what Halfway have been doing is really beginning to understand, really aligning themselves around the fact that when we buy a car or we lease a car, the problem we're trying to solve is our ongoing mobility. And so they're trying to develop their value streams to basically be able to provide that value. If you're not lucky enough, though, to be able to shape the strategy of your organization, now many of you are very, very big companies, and you're maybe not able to even work at that level, then there's still hope, because the model, the lean transformation model, is the question, what problem are we trying to solve, is fractal. So just like Romanesque broccoli here, if I take one piece of broccoli and I snap a smaller piece off, the shapes are the same. It's a fractal. And so it's equally applicable if we're looking at an issue in a department or even the performance of a team. Next, we turn our attention to the first of our two pillars, and we've called this operational or process improvement. And this is the second distinct piece of lean. What we're doing here is we're focusing on the work that creates value for customers. And this is often where many lean folks are most comfortable, really, and what many people see as being lean, the operations bit. But it really is only one element of the system. To see what we're talking about, let's have a look at some work. And this is a video Gemba. And again, this example comes from the work I've been doing with Halfway. There we go. That was worrying. Do you want to turn the sound right down, and I'll tell everybody what's going on. What we're doing here is we're, in the old days, you used to use a pen and a paper. We used to map the value stream. And these days, with technology, it's far easier to use a video, because that then involves the team later on in terms of having a look at the actual process that they use, particularly on these longer cycle processes. And of course we can speed it up. If only he really did work that fast, we'd be all able to have while you wait servicing. And what we did with this process is we videoed, we took a look at the current situation, and what you actually find is that very, very few of the activities create value for the customer. So he walks to the clock card machine. We don't want to pay for that, do we? When we're having a car serviced, it's not really what we want to pay for. There's a lovely bit. This bit is really nice. Have a look at this. He walks to the parts department, and now he's going to search for the parts. So he wants an oil filter, and this is how organised all the oil filters are. And now he's searching through each individual job card, trying to find the car. Now here's the third one. No, it's not in there. Okay, now he's got it. Now he has to sign, and so on. So the point here is that by being able to see the work, what we're actually doing here is we're then able to make improvements to it. So I'm going to click off that. I'm going to carry on. That's not English. My screen's gone, but anyway, let's oh, here we go. Oh, okay, right. So what's distinct about this approach in the halfway case, and this is where we're using this transformation model, is what's distinct about the approach used when asking the questions in this model is that you realise that to sustain the transformation, the people who manage the work must learn to improve it. That might be quite uncomfortable. If you're in a lean team and you're charged with developing projects, that might be quite a challenge for you. But in this particular example, the experiment actually is to have no lean team. That's the experiment. Because what we want is we want improvement to be part of the management system. A truly lean organization would have improvement part of the management system. And so we need to take a look at how that pans out in practice. Because there are then, that's not to say no lean team, but that means that it's a very different role for some of those kind of guys. And you can see in this picture, the guys that have just done that work are now starting to document and to break that job down. So we can go again. I won't show you all of this, but for any group of folks that are interested in improvement, it comes as no surprise to find that productivity in this particular case, from the first pass of PDCA cycles, is 200%. It's a 200% improvement in productivity from the first set of experiments. But whilst the team conducted multiple experiments to get to this level in 2 days, this is only one macro PDCA with some smaller ones embedded into the activity. To take the next leap, we need to think about the second pillar of our transformation model. And you can see that not all experiments work. You know, we haven't quite got the car in the right place. We have to reverse it. We have to do all these different things. But the point is that these guys are learning. They're learning about what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so by experiment 4, you see what's changed? Somebody else is driving the car in. And the point here is, the only guys that create money for that particular business are the technicians. It's a bit like on assembly, ensuring that everything is being delivered to the worker to be able to create value. So in this particular case, they've gone from about a 2-hour job. It's about a 2-hour job. Then they're now down to about 20 minutes. It's taken them 20 minutes to service a car. Okay? So what that then means, in terms of back to purpose, in terms of mobility, is that we're all able to drop our car off and wait for only half an hour, and the car is completely serviced while we wait. We can do our emails, we can even be sold another car or whatever. But the guys are servicing while you wait in half an hour. And they're doing that in maybe 2-3 days by working on the process in detail. Okay. So that's the process improvement piece. But in order to actually begin to the piece around sustainability, the second pillar is called capability development. And that's all about how we develop people. And let's explore that by taking a look at a target condition. Here, our target condition is to build capability so that people can do and improve themselves. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a problem solver out of every single person in the organization. We can take the old skills matrix classifications and we can look at them from ability from level 1, having knowledge, through understanding, being capable, being able to do a job well, through being able to do it, teach it, and improve it. Interestingly, it's only knowledge of the work that is suitable for off-the-job classroom training. Levels 2, 3, 4, and 5 are actually better taught with actual problems on the job with mentoring from capable supervisors. So that might begin to get you to ask the question about your 900 slides in your lean boot camp that you put people through. And this is a Toyota capability development model. So you can't develop skill just by sitting in a classroom. You have to practice. So to build capability, we need to design processes that develop people on the job. Developing people needs to be explicit. It's actually each leader's job. And to develop people, we have to develop experiments beginning from need and aiming training a level above what the organizational need is to stretch people and the organization. The engine for such experiments is the plan, do, check, act cycle, the scientific method. Begin by need means solving real problems that help close our performance gaps. Our next piece is then in the center of our house is focusing on leadership and management. In particular, we think about what the management system is that we need and the leadership behaviors to drive the transformation. And that's tricky. There are elements of these dimensions within the transformation that aren't easy to see, as perhaps understanding and improving the actual work. But some of the elements are well known. And one example of this is the process of developing and deploying strategy using Hoshin Kanri. A second example would be managing teams using daily team meetings, and stand-up meetings around visual boards. And we've run a series of experiments at Halfway to actually think about that. And to show you what I mean, here's a sales meeting that we videoed last March. This has been running a while, and you'll see how they evaluate the performance of the sales process and how that can lead to specific training for individual salespeople. So you can turn this one up just for a little bit. What the guys are doing is initially they're checking deliveries. And secondly, they're checking the status of each deal, each sales deal with the individual team. Can you turn it up a little bit? Yeah.
James? Right, as we say every day, let's just convert these apps. The other thing, how are you finding the market out there? Corolla? Activity on Corolla?
There is
Big. What models are, I see 70s with
1.8 and the 1.8, yeah.
The 1.6 Prestige is a top seller at other dealers. They're all going to 1.6 Prestige, but I'm holding on to the stock. I'm actually considering upping our ordering on the 1.6 Prestige or swapping material also.
And tell me on Benza, we're finding a little bit...
So we talked about this quite a bit yesterday. Was it down again? What the guys are actually doing here is, you can look at the questions on the bottom. The guys are learning the concept of asking open questions. And the idea of asking open questions is actually to develop the team's problem-solving capability. So in our leadership and management system, what we're wanting to develop that problem-solving capability through asking open questions. Okay, right. So you see, it's possible to make the more invisible parts of the transformation visible. You need to establish a target condition, an ideal situation where you want to get to, understand the current state, and then develop experiments to see if you can close the gaps. And above all, you need to practice. And that can only really be done on the Gemba in the workplace, supported by people who know what they're looking for. What we're trying to do, through these daily meetings. Sorry, I've messed up there. Right, okay. What we're trying to do is what we're trying to accomplish through these routines. And the daily meeting is one, and coaching is another one, is to get people to take initiative to solve problems and improve their job, and to ensure that each person's job is aligned to provide value for the customer and prosperity for the company, getting the work done and developing the people at the same time. For the foundations of the house, we refer to the basic thinking. That's the assumptions and the mindset that underlies the entire system and drives the transformation. And this really is about the basic beliefs that we as individuals have about the way that transformation works. These beliefs and mindset constitute the culture of the organisation. And to use a practical example, the senior team at Halfway believes that the people closest to the work know the most about it, and that we need to harness their knowledge so that the problems can be solved by the people doing the work. That's very different to having a basic belief around experts solving problems. And so we have 5 elements of the lean transformation model. What problem are we trying to solve? And that leads us to a target condition that helps us determine the situational approach. Next, we look at operational improvement, and we ask, how will we improve the actual work? And of course, we want to work continuously to improve, and that requires people that have the capability to do that. So our third question is, how will we develop the people who can change the work correctly? Now we know what problem we're trying to solve, what the work is that's required, and what capabilities people need. We can design the leadership behaviours and the management systems required. Therefore, the question here is, what leadership behaviour and management systems are required for this? And finally, what basic assumptions or mindsets underlie the change? So we argue if you like, that you have to have all 5 of those elements in a transformation. It's a system. It's not prescriptive. It's about the experiments to try. And by asking these questions, fine-tuned to an organisation's circumstances, the organisation can transform faster and maybe one day right first time on time. I'll talk a little bit later on about halfway in a bit more detail, but from the framework, this is the way that they've actually displayed and developed all of those 5 elements in a graphical drawing. Well done for translating it actually into Hungarian, because I would imagine it was quite difficult. So to conclude, the great thing about doing this, I've been doing this a long time, it's 25 years. The great thing is that the more you do, the more you learn. I think that's the great thing. And the more you learn, the more questions you have. And potentially the more experiments you can make. So I'm grateful that I get companies like Halfway and these other great firms to experiment with. But you only really learn by doing. You don't really learn by theory. So you kind of have to go out and go to the Gemba to practice. So that's me done, I think. Any questions? Are we just about on time? Or?
You're exactly on time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
És akkor valóban most következik a kérdések és válaszok. És Dave, stay here, because I've got a device for you.
Jó napot kívánok, Kéne István vagyok, köszönjük szépen Dave-nek az előadását. Az lenne a kérdésem, hogy ugye Dave elmondta, hogy ez a transformációs modell, ez mindig függ attól, vagy ennek a megvalósítása, vagy a részletei, hogy milyen helyzetben van az adott vállalat. Hogy a számos vizsgálat, a tapasztalat során sikerült-e azonosítani különböző fajta, vagy típusú modelleket, tehát hogy mondjuk egy autókereskedő cég mást használ, mint mondjuk egy kórház, vagy más, mint egy termelővállalat. Tehát alakulnak ilyen mintázatok, amit esetleg lehet tanulni.
Yeah, I think this transformation model can apply anywhere, because what it is, it's the 5 elements that a company needs to think about when it's embarking on the transformation. And sure, I think that the problems can be very different actually in dealerships. This company's got 20 dealerships, and across those 20 dealerships, by using this transformation model, you end up focusing where the organization, where each dealership needs to focus. Instead of saying, well, we've made this transformation in one site, or even in one value stream, so the after-sales value stream, and now what we'll do is we'll copy that and roll it out. In this model, there isn't a rollout. The actual the framework is used to work out what the problem is, and then to say, from what the problem is, these are the elements that we need to consider, and therefore we're able to have a much more effective transformation. So it's very tempting, I think, when a group of guys learns to service a car in 20 minutes, to then have every other site come to watch, and then to take that back. Well, what you need to do is you need to do this sequence. But the point is, and Terry often uses this quote, people engage with what they are included with. They reject what they're excluded from. And so actually the process of getting those people actually to solve their problem engages their thinking, and that helps with the sustainability. The big rollout, very often, 6 months later, we look back and there have been great isolated results initially, but the reality is that 6 months later, all those results have gone. And so I think to answer your question, this framework can be used anywhere, and we've got several examples across the Lean Global Network where we're using this in different places. But in my case, I've been using this with the Toyota dealer, but in 20 sites. And for those 20 sites, for the company, the learning is far greater. Because instead of just trying one thing and then rolling that one thing out, they've got maybe 10 or 12 things that they're trying in parallel, and they can share in parallel the different things that they're trying. And that way they learn a lot quicker as well. So I hope that answered part of the question.
Good morning, my name is Lajos Szabó. At the very beginning, you mentioned the first stage to define the customer purpose. What's happening if you have different segments? So one customer say express segment, express delivery is the most important, and the others say the price is the most important. Are you doing different projects, or you forget about one project and you just focus on one purpose?
Okay. In this particular case, actually, the voice of the customer is very important, and of course some customers will say price, and some customers will say time. If you can compress time, you can reduce the price if you need to. And so in this particular case, there's one particular site, which is in Johannesburg, that's surrounded by other sites. They've compressed the time, and in their case, they've reduced the price, and because they can, whilst maintaining the same margin, and are now the equivalent of about 10 euros per hour cheaper than every other site in the locality. And what that's done is that's dragging work from their competitors, because word gets around. But actually, a whole other segment of the market actually says, well, convenience is really important, and they don't have to reduce the price if they don't want to, or don't have that competitive position, because actually, when you make things more convenient for customers, quite often they're quite willing to pay more. So I think time compression in the first instance, quite often leads you to have more options. So it's the time compression, not actually just focusing on the price in this particular instance. Okay. Any others?
Igen, egy mikrofont kérünk itt az úrnak a harmadik sorban.
Jó napot, Matyi Tamás vagyok. Egy kérdésem van az elsőre jó transformációval kapcsolatban. Mellette azt halljuk, hogy minél hamarabb kezdjünk el, tapasztaljunk, akár a hibákból is. Ez a kettő, ez hogyan párosítható össze? Tehát inkább hibázunk, vagy inkább elsőre jó transformációt csináljunk?
The question I pose by asking this question of can we apply right first time on time thinking to transformation is actually exactly the same as thinking about a value stream. And can you get all of the actions that you need to happen to be done right first time on time? Probably not, because we're dealing with people and we're dealing with situations and so on. But we don't ever really think, when we design these transformations, we very rarely think about being able to deliver right first time on time for that transformation. And so it's a question really back to you. Have you ever thought about all the reasons why your transformation doesn't go according to plan, and put countermeasures in place to actually close the gaps as you go? So that's really the reason for asking that question.
Köszönjük szépen Dave-nek. Thank you very much, Dave.